Good afternoon, my people. What is going on? It is your man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where you know what it is. Our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. Today is Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. And I just want to give a special shout out to everyone who is joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube. We stream across multiple mediums here from StreamYard. And I also want to give a huge heartfelt thank you to the Wealth Our Way family who catches this recorded, watches it overnight, watches it on a lunch break, or wherever they can squeeze their 15 minutes of financial literacy in. So we're here today to continue a conversation that we started yesterday about this having the same financial money language as a potential spouse, dating partner, fiance, someone who you're going to go down your life's journey with. I think it's equally as important to not only be equally yoked from an emotional standpoint, but to be equally yoked from a financial standpoint. As you guys know, on 15 Minutes of Finance and Wealth Our Way in general, I am a big sharer of glimpses into my own personal life because I think the best way to lead is by example. You know what? I don't need my glasses today because I'm not screen sharing. And so I don't need to read small print. So to keep the glare off of my eyes, I'll just go, sans glasses, or with, is it sans is without glasses. So with that being said, I want to talk to you guys about two different scenarios that I've experienced in marriage. One is where one spouse makes all the money, and in another area where two spouses both are income earners. And what I have learned in my 24 years of financial advisory services, along with I got married at 28, so 23 years of being married, basically is that there's a big difference between having a single income and having joint incomes into the home. There's also a big difference between someone who is a spender versus someone who's a saver, someone who has an abundance mindset versus someone who has a scarcity mindset, someone who takes money very seriously versus someone who doesn't take money seriously at all. The crazy part about those, yin and yangs in each instance is you can be in multiple categories. You can be a saver who takes money very seriously and believes in abundance. Or you can be a saver who's not really all that concerned about money and believes in scarcity. That, may lend itself to more of a hoarding mindset where you just don't want to spend anything because you're concerned things may run out. So what I have learned is that business leads relationships. Business leads partnerships. Marriage is a partnership. Marriage is a relationship. Business leads that. We, in this country, and I say Western society, we kind of put that whole thing on its ear and we went the other way. We want to, we live in a capitalist society, and anybody who thinks that everything that you see on TV, everything that you see on social media, everything you hear in song isn't in some way, shape, or form designed to get $1 out of your pocket, you need to rethink what you're looking at. So when you see two people walking down the beach holding hands with a Hallmark card ad playing in the background or soft music, it's to get you to spend 2 weeks salary on a vacation, 2 months salary on an engagement ring, 2 years salary on a house. The fact of the matter is that if you don't focus on where things are going financially, the love will not carry you through. And that is not a person speaking of any level of bitterness. That is a person speaking of a level of logic. That love, you'll be taught this through your own personal relationship, through the observation of other people's relationships, through things that you read, through premarital counseling. You don't always love the person across the way from you. You don't always like the person across the way from you, but you make it through. You buy a house together, you have kids together, you do these things that tie you together and you make it work. What always is there, though, is the mortgage, is the car note, is feeding the kids. So if you don't focus on the financial side of your relationship, first and foremost, you're inventing a scenario that is going to lead to strife, unhappiness, and a lack of fulfillment. Because when the love goes, you still have the financial obligations. What I coined a phrase when I was going through my first, the end of my first marriage, going through my divorce, that is when the money don't stack right, your honey don't act right. And y'all can have that. Y'all can use that in the future. But the reality is that going back to what I talked about yesterday, where this gentleman was talking about women staying at the finish line and picking the winners when it comes to men. Being a man, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You got to be able to provide, dude. Don't nobody want, TLC let us know. They don't want no scrubs. You can't be a broke dude. I see a lot of things because I present business on social media and I'm on social media a lot. I happen to see a lot of personal things that are being shared on social media. And there seems to be this mindset. And I don't know if it's limited to the African American community, but I'll talk about the perspective that I'm seeing it, that there's a new wave of Black men, according to the Black women that I see speaking on these outlets, that say that men no longer want to provide, that men want to play Xbox all day, sit up on the sofa, and expect women to do more than their fair share. I don't know where they do that at. That's not my personal experience. Now, once again, I'm 51 years old. So at this point, I got to say I'm an old school fool. Like, I go back in the day. I would never be on Saturday Night Live in a dress. I would never put a diamond in my head. I'm not a new wave guy. With that being said, I wonder, for those of you guys who have sons who are between the ages of 20 and 30 or 18 and 28, do you see men acting this way? And just like yesterday, I want you guys to come into the comments and let's have a conversation about this, because as I was raised, I grew up in a home with no male dominant figure. My older brother was the man of the house. My mom was the law. My great grandmother was the backup law. Like, I was raised by two women. My takeaway from watching my mom struggle to work was that I never wanted to be in a situation where the woman in my life struggled any. I wanted to be able to do my part and more. But conversely, I have an extremely close friend, and most of you guys know who I'm talking about. It's my brother, my main man, Bigger the Headbanger. Bigger the Headbanger feels the almost exact opposite way. Grew up the same way I grew up, watching his mom struggle to feed him and take care of him. And his takeaway was, oh, women don't need no help. They good. They just as good as men when it comes to providing. And, there's arguments that can be made on both sides of it. I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think he's wrong. I look at my daughters and I want them to get a man who will take care of things. Now, in this day and age, that may be seen as, chauvinistic. That may be seen as old school. I think that a lot of what has happened in this country, when you think back to the 20s and the 30s, when almost everyone in the workforce was a man and women stayed at home, you had this situation where divorces occurred and women were left holding the bag. Women got the kids, the man ran off with the young new girlfriend, and women felt as though they were getting the short end of the stick, and the laws adjusted to protect. That's what laws do. They go to protect the people who are being wronged, supposedly. So when that happened, you started seeing child support, increases, alimony, things that would level the playing field. Well, the reality is that in this day and age, especially in the African American community, and I'm speaking in generals and averages, and I, once again, come into the comments and tell me if you feel differently. The average Black woman is better educated than the average Black man. Now, a lot of people who I speak to went to college. So you look to your left, your right, and you see men who are educated and women who are educated. I'm asking you to take a bigger lens here. When you look back to mass incarceration affected the males at a much higher rate, like outstriping 25-1 men going to prison over women going to prison. When you look at that, school to prison pipeline, that affected males. It didn't affect women as much. So what you ended up happening as a kind of an unintended consequence, when there were not as many Black men to lead the family, let's not even get into the social services element of things that in the 60s and 70s told Black women that if you wanted benefits like housing, food support, anything, You could only get it if there was no man around. So these things put a definite divide in the Black community, and they put a mindset of women fending for themselves. So the majority of educated Black women do have a mindset of, I don't need a man. There's nothing wrong with that mindset. We shouldn't need anything. We should want things that make our lives more complete. But unfortunately, in the grander relationship side of things, men have a need to be needed. So when you run into a situation, well, let me say this, I'm not speaking for these new school cats. Old school cats have a need to be needed. Maybe all of these dudes that have been raised by single moms nowadays want to be taken care of by women for the rest of their lives. I don't know anything about that. When I got divorced the first time, it financially devastated me. And I was in a position where my income got cut more than 60%. That's when I met my current wife. And my current wife was making, I want to say, more money than I was making when I met her. And I was trying to get back on my feet, but I think I was making maybe about 150, 160 when we met. And she was making 170, 180 when we met. And it wasn't even that our incomes were close. Our mindsets were totally different. She was, kind of at the top of her career and really confident in who she was. I had just got my ass handed to me in life. My midlife crisis was in full swing, and making 160,000 felt like I was on food stamps to me. So we were in two different spaces mentally, and there was a heavy lean on her. And as I started to get back on my feet, I regained my confidence in my position as a man. And, don't get me wrong, that has caused a lot of growing pains in the relationship, because there was a mindset of, oh, I got this broken bird, I'll nurse his wings back and get him right. And then when the bird starts flying, she was like, oh, you don't need me to do these things that you needed me to do before. But we didn't have the proper conversations before we got involved. We did what so many people do. We worked on the relationship side and didn't work on the business side of things. So let me read some of these comments and see if I can address things. My man Bruce says he saw a quote that said, women are raising a generation of men that daughters should not want to date. Well, I'm gonna tell you that my daughter, my oldest daughter, is a beast. No, she's my daughter, so I'm biased. I think she's beautiful. She's 6 feet tall. She's gorgeous. She owns her own home that she doesn't pay for because she has tenants that pay her mortgage. She has 2 undergraduate degrees from the University of Georgia, a graduate degree from Fordham that she got all A's, 4.0, and graduated, whatever that is, summa cum laude. And now she's at Temple Law, TU. She's at the mighty Temple Law. And she just called me yesterday to tell me her job gave her a 6-figure contract. Like, this girl is killing it. And when I tell you, she can't find a man. When I tell you, she is stressed out too, because she wants to be a mom and a wife so bad. And she probably stabbed me for putting her business in the street, unless it leads to her getting a husband, then she'll be happy. But she doesn't find anything comparable to what she's doing as a female being done amongst males. And I'm here to tell you, there are dudes that are her age who are killing it, doing it that way, but they don't see any incentive to marrying somebody. Why not be able to be the tip of the sword and the shiniest jewel in the box and go around and do whatever you want to do? Because marriage for men is often just very limiting. There's not a lot of upside for a man in a man's mind. For a woman, it creates this sense of completion and security. For a man, it kind of creates this idea of, if you think of yourself as a lion, an alpha male roaming the Sahara, all of a sudden you're snared up in the net and you're caught. That's not necessarily attractive for a 25, 26, 27-year-old man, which is why I said yesterday, if, I tell my daughter this all the time, she should be looking at 35 to 40-year-old dudes. And I'm her dad. So if I'm telling her to go talk to old dudes, it's a reason for it. I want nothing but the best for her. Let's look at what my boy Arion said. Some men and women have feet in both old school and new school, depending on which ideal benefits them personally at the time. I agree with that. People aren't very consistent. And, He also added, many of our women and men still bring that gross public policy of not having a man in the home into how some of us date and live in relationships. I also agree with that. My man B. Glaspie says he has 9 nieces, mostly Ivy League, graduate degrees. Their complaint, finding Black men to be competent and step up. That's a whole nother conversation. We're going to pick that up tomorrow. I'm gonna stay on this theme until y'all tell me to move on. Today is Wednesday. I'll probably just carry this through the week. I'm going to have some slides tomorrow. I'm going to do a little research on demographically how things are financially, how the trend toward divorce has occurred, how people are dealing, give some personal examples of what I've seen out here as a financial advisor on how people handle different disparities of finances in their relationships, so you guys can all get an appreciation for how things should work. And I encourage you to continue giving me some inboxes and some comments, and I'm going to answer all the comments from yesterday and today. So I thank you. We ran a little long today, but I think it was worth it. I want to keep this social commentary going, and let's talk about how money affects relationships and we haven't even gotten to some intelligent tips on how to date without going bankrupt in this day and age, because Big Tank liked to go to Capitol Grill when I'm on a date. You can't take a different chick to Capitol Grill every night and be financially okay. So you got to find some ways to be creative. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But for now, I'm going to sign off. I want you guys to know here at Wealth Our Way, our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I'll see you guys all live tomorrow at 12:30. Take care and have a great day.